No one can doubt the success of GT3 racing and its impact on international motorsport. The category, introduced by Stefan Rattel and his SRO group back in 2005, has changed the face of sports car racing right across the world, including here in Australia. Now, TCR is aiming to do the same thing for touring car racing. The category, founded by former World Touring Car Championship boss Marcello Lotti, kicked off in 2015 and since then has expanded rapidly right around the world, with successful series in Asia and the Middle East and right across Europe. In 2018, the United States will join the party, with TCR cars joining the successful Continental Tires series with IMSA. As yet, about the only continent not to be conquered so far is Australia, where dinosaurs rule the earth. But that might be all about to change. This Audi A3 TCR car was an interesting visitor to the recent Shannon's Nationals at Phillip Island. But with no obvious place to race down under, what was the car doing here?
This car's been brought in conjunction with Audi Sport Custom Racing and actually Audi Australia. It's being used for some hot laps, sort of some PR work with some journalists and I suppose promotional work. Our view, so that's what it's here for Audi Australia, our view is just to possibly get people interested. It's a growing series around the world, this TCR, and it's huge. It runs in over 20 series around the world. I think there's 10 series in Europe, 1 in America, 5 in Asia, so it's a really growing category. Manufacturers are sort of right behind it, so in that respect it's good. So hoping to be able to do something here in Australia, but currently there's no series, as you say, that it fits into, so we kind of need to know what lap time it does, let the obviously some series management, category management and that, be able to see the car, possibly look at lap times and just see where we can fit it in the Australian market.
So with what you found out over the last few days with the journalists on board, what sort of times is it doing and what category do you think it might be able to fit into in terms of times?
It's hard to say at this stage. Obviously we've only done rides when you're only expected to do 80% I suppose, and the extra weight of a passenger. We're probably being on slicks at the moment. We're sort of at a 38.0 as a slow time. It's obviously capable of a bit more of that. So that is sort of, as this runs currently, it is a bit lighter than the BOP, and I'm not exactly sure of the horsepower level on this one, being one of the development cars from Audi. But they do have BOPs around the world, so 1160 dry, but I think they run at about 1250 kilos BOP, reduced engine power to 330 horsepower, and then also a ride height. So the going on the GT3 sort of thing with BOPs, where you can bring each manufacturer to a level playing field, that's what TCR is also designed for. Obviously having many manufacturers in it, the VAG group also has, we have a Volkswagen and a Seat that is on the same platform as this. So there's potential there. The lap speed that we're showing here with patches, that is kind of irrelevant. We need to find a category that it fits into, and then it can be BOP'd accordingly to that category.
Would you like to see a TCR category established in Australia, or would you be looking to perhaps run it with other things for in races like the Bathurst 12 Hour?
I probably see it maybe sort of in the production car style thing, knowing what the new guys are spending on the BMWs, the new Mercedes that have just done like the 6-hour Bathurst 12 Hour. I know the money involved in developing and building them, and I wouldn't say any of them are really that reliable package at this stage, whereas these things run from a club sport version, €99,000 to €129,000 for the full dog box SATIF gearbox in it. Its price point to me is on par or cheaper than production car racing. Lap time wise, it's possibly capable of a bit faster, but they are running on an R-Spec tyre, so bringing this back to an R-Spec tyre is obviously going to slow up the lap times. That's the type of class that I see it in. Potentially, I think GT4 is maybe the new category in Australia that's probably going to run on the lower class of GT3, your Bathurst 12 Hours, possibly Australian GT Championship, obviously Trophy this year, Australian GT Trophy Series, they're eligible. So I think this is more a production car sort of based thing, but obviously it's going to be a process. We haven't got the cars and there's not enough cars for a complete series, so I would suggest we need to talk to the managers, but it needs to come into that class as like a Class 2 car. Obviously, the people that have invested their money in their cars currently, they're not going to want something like this to come in and be faster than them, so it probably needs to be BOP to be somewhere down the field. Then in a couple of years' time, obviously people see the potential of them. You can then maybe bring up the BOP for them to be the class leader in the series. So I see it as maybe a 2-year thing. But obviously we need to talk to the right people and see if there's interest there. What's been the reaction of the car over the past week? As far as journalists, like a couple of we had 12 journalists run through the car. The few that I spoke to, very, very excited. A couple of them have been involved in production car racing before and really see it as a good fit in that area. From a driver's perspective, what they're suggesting, the cars are so nimble, nothing like a GT3 car as far as you can drive them offline, you can sort of mess up and recover. So to me that sort of puts it in the really good racing where you can overtake from the outside, dives in the inside. So the fact that the car is so nimble and forgiving, I think it will produce really good racing. If there's any drivers out there here in Australia or New Zealand watching now that might be interested in finding out more about the possibilities of this car, who do they contact? Contact myself or Troy Russell at Melbourne Performance Centre. We can obviously talk them through the different levels price-wise. We have full support here in Australia with parts package, direct contact to the factory, exactly the same as our R8 program and our soon-to-be GT4 program. So yeah, come and talk to us. We can give you the information and go from there. Just quickly, you mentioned GT4 a couple of times. When might we see an Audi GT4 running around? I haven't actually got the heads up and the date, but yeah, I believe later this year you'll see something. The Audi may not be the only TCR car in the country much longer. In Pit Lane has been told of at least 5 new cars on the way for later this year, and several groups, including the Australian Autosport Alliance, are apparently keen to offer the new class somewhere to race down under. No one's expecting for a second that TCR will ever replace the popular supercars here in Australia. With a seemingly unquenchable thirst for the power and thunder of V8 muscle, it seems unlikely that these smaller, slower 4-cylinder cars will ever hope to attract the sort of rabid popularity enjoyed by their larger counterparts. But with the interest shown in this car already at Phillip Island, and with the rapid growth of TCR overseas, especially in Asia, it's not impossible to believe that TCR could find itself a small but very appreciated niche market down under.